For most of my life, I've had good skin. It's genetic, and I totally took it for granted. After I turned 40, my skin started going haywire. Thankfully, I found Curology. Whether you're trying to take control of acne, fine lines, dark spots, or clogged pores, Curology will customize a prescription formula with 3 active ingredients picked for you to tackle your skincare needs. Now, my skincare needs, I've got these dark spots and I've got these horrible breakouts. To get your treatment plan, you start by answering questions online about your skin and sending in a couple selfies to Curology. Next, Curology matches your skin with a licensed dermatology provider who gets to know your skin, and if it's a good fit, you'll get a customized prescription cream to address your unique skin concerns. I answered the questions on the Curology website. They asked me things like, is my skin oily or dry? How much water do I consume? What is my diet? What are my diet restrictions? Things like that. After, Curology sets you up with a personalized treatment plan and ships your custom formula right to your door. So I got my products. I've been using them for about a week now. I haven't had any new breakouts. Get a powerful skincare treatment made for you today. Go to Curology.com/ratchet for a free 30-day trial. Just pay for shipping and handling. That's Curology.com/ratchet to unlock your free 30-day trial. See Curology.com for all the details. Lately, I've had some busy days. I mean the kind where I look up from my computer, realize it's the end of the day, and I've totally skipped lunch. For days when my meetings are back to back, or if I just need a quick break, I've been loving Daily Harvest. Daily Harvest delivers delicious food built on organic fruits and vegetables right to your door. It takes just a few minutes to prepare, and I never have to question if the food I'm eating is good for me. My favorite bowl is the sweet potato and wild rice hash. Daily Harvest makes it easy to eat clean, undeniably delicious food no matter what your day brings. Keep it simple with Daily Harvest. Go to dailyharvest.com and enter promo code RESPECTABLE to get $25 off your first box. That's promo code RESPECTABLE for $25 off your first box at dailyharvest.com. dailyharvest.com. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you are listening to Ratchet and Respectable with Demetria L. Lucas. I don't even know how to start this podcast this week. First and foremost, before we dive into any of our hot topics, I want to pay my condolences to the family and friends of Chadwick Boseman, who passed away last Friday. He passed away from colon cancer at the age of 43. It seems that only his family and very, very, very close friends were aware. He just shot a Spike Lee movie, Da 5 Bloods, on Netflix. I think they finished shooting earlier this year, and Spike Lee was like, no, I didn't know. He never said anything. Like, I totally get why he didn't tell people. No one wants to be perceived as sickly or have people, feeling sorry for them or treating them with kid gloves. As far as the public goes, his health is really not our business. But with him not disclosing it, it just comes as a complete shock that no one was prepared for. And I didn't realize how strongly I felt about Chadwick Boseman. I mean, I saw the Black Panther, I want to say 5 times in theaters. And then when it was finally released, my mom bought it. So we watched it over and over. That was like, we're having dinner? All right, we'll put Black Panther on. And we would just sit there and watch it over and over and be shocked and awe and teared up. Like we didn't know exactly what was going to happen. Like we didn't know the whole script at that point. As much as I love Black Panther, it's not even my favorite Chadwick Boseman movie. That's Get On Up. The James Brown movie. He should have won an Oscar for that. And I said it at the time. I went and found the old review that I wrote for the movie when it came out. And I said then, I was like, this is Oscar-worthy acting. But he didn't get any awards for it. Shameful. Chadwick Boseman, phenomenal actor, obviously. Also a phenomenal human. The friends and family and people who met him, I met him in passing. I took a picture with him at the Marshall premiere in DC. Really nice guy, very humble, very personable. Was just walking around like not in VIP. And I was like, hey, can I take a picture? Because I saw the James Brown movie. And he was like, sure. But that's the extent of my encounters with him. I never interviewed him or anything. I know tons of people that went to Howard with him. Everyone's got amazing stories. Other actors behind the scenes, people at the crafts table, like everyone. It was like, oh, he was a phenomenal human. Just a phenomenal human. Which, yeah, I'm glad to hear that. Everyone who we uplift is not always worthy in their character of being uplifted. Chadwick Boseman is one of those people. ABC preempted whatever programming they had planned for Friday night, and they ran the Black Panther on their networks without interruption. And then they had an after show hosted by Robin Roberts to celebrate Boseman's life. It was very beautiful. Oprah spoke about him, Forrest Whitaker, Felicia Rashad, Iron Man. What's Iron Man's real name? He looked like he needed a hug. I was like, someone please drive to that man's house and hug him immediately because he does not look okay. Michael B. Jordan wrote a very beautiful tribute to him on Instagram. There were stories circulating that he was crushed. I don't know if he knew that that Chadwick was ill, but he was crushed, which I was like, yeah, I could see that. Like, I met the man in passing and I'm crushed. Like, I went and sat out on the balcony with a glass of wine and just thinking about the fragility of life, how you think you have more time to do more things. But Chadwick knew that he didn't have a lot of time. But he was diagnosed 4 years ago. He shot the Black Panther, knowing his diagnosis. He shot the 5 Bloods. He did, what's the follow-up? What was the big one? Not Captain Marvel, Infinity War. He did that knowing he had cancer. He did a lot with the short time that he had on Earth. So watching the Black Panther again was very comforting to me. My mom kept saying, she was like, don't watch it. You're going to be sad. You're going to be so sad. Don't watch it. But I watched it anyway. Seeing him walk on the ancestral plane with the navy blue and purple sky and the stars and being with the ancestors, it gave me peace. Like, Chadwick is no longer with us, but he's gone to hang out with the ancestors. They're no longer here, but they've gone to a better place. Speaking of ancestors, has anyone been watching Lovecraft Country? I know a lot of y'all are because I keep talking about it on social media. It's a new show on HBO. Remember the girl from Underground, Rosalie? She's a star in it. Courtney B. Vance is in it. And the main black guy from The Last Black Man in San Francisco. And I'm not using their names because most people don't know their names. But you know who I'm talking about if I tell you the role that they played. This is executive produced by Jordan Peele from Get Out. And then also Misha Green. She's the showrunner. Misha was the creator and executive producer for Underground. Just in 3 episodes, I've seen other actors from Underground pop up in the series. Like episode 3, there's a young boy that plays a young Gil Scott-Heron. And that little boy was Rosalie. It was her little brother, James, in Underground. Lovecraft Country is not underground. This is not set during slavery, but it's set during the 1950s with wilding out white people, which really not so much different than today in that sense. It's sci-fi and it's horror, and one of the most intriguing parts about the story to me is that it has monsters and it has ghosts or ancestors. They're not as scary as the white people. Like, it's like, I don't know which one to be more afraid of. Like, the white people are unpredictable. The monsters you can kind of figure out. Okay, like if I shine some light on the monsters with the big teeth and 1,000 eyes on their bodies, they'll go away because they're scared of light. You can figure out pretty easily how to deal with the monsters. You can outrun them. You can shoot them. You have a concrete way to deal with the monsters with the big teeth. The monsters with white skin, like you don't know. Because you think like, oh, if I do this, if I follow the rules, if I yes sir, no sir, if I show deference, if I keep my head down, if I humiliate myself, if I do what they say, then I still might not be all right. Like, how do you deal with the unpredictable monsters that are white folks? And one of the common themes that I'm seeing in just 3 episodes is the idea of community. And I'm not going to tell you any spoilers, but there's a scene in episode 2 where a main character is in trouble and an ancestor appears and leads him to safety. There's a scene in episode 3 where a character is in trouble again, and she calls on the ancestors to help. And when the ancestors come to help her, she accomplishes her mission and the ancestors are restored to their full selves. If this was a Spike Lee movie, Dap Dunlap would ring a bell and yell, "Wake up!" I tried to get my mom to watch it and I was like, we got to support the Black people. And she was like, that one is monsters. Mother did say that she would put it on the TV and leave the room, or she would DVR it so that it got like a view or a stream, but she not watching no monsters. It's a really good show and it's very smart. I don't do horror. I don't do sci-fi. I don't really understand the rules of the genre. There's a podcast for the show, the official podcast via HBO, and it's called Lovecraft Country Radio. The first episode was the creator of the show, and it's had writers of the show on. For those of us who are not true fans of the genre and may struggle to keep up with the storyline, they break it all down and they introduce different themes and they understand why this scene happened and what this character was conveying. So you're like, oh, you don't feel as lost. I'm also in this Facebook group about Lovecraft Country. Last time I checked, it was like 12,000 people in there who are all very knowledgeable either about sci-fi or history. And between people who just know the genre and then people who just know history and then people who just pay attention to every little detail, between the 12,000 of us, we can put together pretty well what's going on in every episode. But it's a really, really good show. What else is going on in the world? Andrew Gilllum, remember him? His story got overshadowed a bit by COVID-19, which an undue blessing to him. We've talked about him a bunch of times. He ran for governor in Florida and lost. His version of events is that he went into a tailspin after that loss and he began abusing alcohol. This all came to national attention when he was discovered passed out and naked in a Miami hotel room with a gay escort and tons of meth. Now, Andrew, who is a married father of 3, has never addressed what he was doing in the room with the gay escort. Why he spoke to reporters at the time, I'm not sure. But he told reporters that he was in town for a wedding. And then the reporters also spoke to the male escort. And he was like, I don't know nothing about no wedding. Nobody said anything to me. Maybe there was a wedding, maybe there wasn't. But the pictures of Andrew naked on the floor, the bathroom floor in the hotel room, were leaked to the public. They went everywhere. And Andrew said that he was not abusing meth, but had reached his rock bottom and was checking into a facility so he could get help for his alcohol addiction. He popped up maybe 6 weeks ago. I'll give it 6 weeks. He had maybe an 8-minute video on Instagram updating people on his life. He said that he had been in extensive therapy. He was getting help. He was recognizing his issues. He's becoming a changed man. He appeared to be speaking from his home office. He had on his wedding band. He had pictures of his wife and children. He did share enough details where it was clear that his wife and family had not abandoned him. I'm telling you all this because I follow Tamron Hall on Instagram, and she has been having much chat about returning to the studio for season 2. She's like, you'll never guess who my guest is. So excited about this guest. This is must-see TV. Okay. Well, it was revealed earlier today that Andrew Gilllum and his wife will be appearing on Tamron to talk about their life. And I very much imagine that Miami hotel incident where, again, naked on the bathroom floor with a gay male escort with a whole bunch of meth in the room. I don't think it's a good idea After Andrew did that social media reintroduction, I was like, sir, it has been 4 months since you hit your rock bottom. And while I believe that you are in therapy and you are doing much better, at least I hope that you are, for whatever it took for you to reach that rock bottom place, you don't unravel all of that and heal it in 4 months. If he wants to be sober and he wants to return to politics, I mean, people have done far worse. The gay male escort was grown. If grown people want to have consenting sex, that's not my business. As a married man, married to a woman, I think you should probably just be having the sex with the woman that you're married to. Different families have different rules. But I don't think that what he did was so terrible that he can't return to politics. I mean, if the president can grab women by the hoo-ha and still be elected president, Andrew didn't assault anyone. If he's sober, I'm willing to hear him out. After a year. I mean, I'm going to tune into this Tamron episode because I'm here to see the train wreck and I'm terrible that way. If I was someone in Andrew's inner circle, like a friend, a family member, someone who genuinely cared about his well-being, I'd be like, y'all need to sit yourselves down. Nothing good can come out of this. Because the best case scenario is you get on national television, you tell the whole truth and you say, well, yes, I, was having sex with the gay male escort and we were doing meth and then we were also drinking and then I passed out on the bathroom floor. If he's not going to explain what the gay male escort was doing in the room, then there's really no point to this interview. And I really don't want his wife sitting up there by his side, holding his hand on some Stand By My Man while he confesses to fucking another man. I don't want that for her. I've never seen an interview where a woman is sitting next to her husband who's confessing to cheating and other wrongdoing, where the woman just doesn't look tortured. Just look like demons are pulling on her soul. I don't want to see another woman sit there and look like that. Like, you want to go do your shit? Well, do your shit and do your apology tour. Go up there by yourself. I'll be waiting in the back in the green room. I'm just saying. He gonna be on Tamron. I'm be tuned in, but I don't think he should do it. In good news, Meghan and Harry have signed a Netflix deal. New York Times calls it a quote and unquote megawatt Netflix deal. 6 months after ceasing to be working members of the British royal family, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex are Hollywood producers. The Times notes that they have founded a yet-to-be-named production company and they signed a multi-year deal with Netflix, which will pay them to make documentaries, docuseries, feature films, scripted shows, and children's programming, giving the couple a global platform 6 months after their, quote, dramatic decampment from the House of Windsor. Harry and Meghan may appear on camera in the documentary program, but the Times notes that Meghan has no plans to return to acting. Their productions will be exclusive to Netflix, which, holy crap, Netflix has 193 million subscribers worldwide. The Times was not able to find out how much Meghan and Harry will be paid. A Netflix spokesperson declined to comment. Unsurprising, but I'm not mad at the journalists for asking. It's a good question. Because I want to know. I mean, it's nosy and ain't none of my business, but I just do want to know. I like to hear about people getting good checks. Someday I would like for y'all to hear about me getting a great check. And I would like to hear about you getting a great check. I'm all for people making their money. In more good news, on Monday, after a weekend of national mourning over Chadwick Boseman, Niecy Nash hit us with some excellent news that she had gotten married. She married Jessica Betts. Jessica is a singer. Jessica, just for clarity, is a woman. You hadn't picked up on that. Niecy, I believe, has been married 3 times previously, twice to the same man. And then there was another man, her ex-husband. The divorce was finalized earlier this year, but they had separated sometime last year. I have a relative who's been married 4 times. And when her mother learned that she was planning to marry a 4th time, she said, how many times do you intend to get married? And her mother was married to her own husband for, I want to say, a good 60 years until he passed away. But my relative responded, and she said, I intend to do it until I get it right. So that 4th husband, she's been with him a good 20 years. And they're happy. So if Niecy, this is her 4th marriage, I don't believe in staying if you're miserable. So if it ain't working, go figure out something that works. Don't just be sitting around miserable just to say you married. I hope that this 4th time is the charm. Good for her. There's been a lot of confusion about how Niecy met her wife. There was a rumor going around that the wife, Jessica, had sung at Niecy's wedding to her previous husband back in 2011. And so people were like, well, was Niecy creeping with this woman all this time? They're there. Oh, social media can be so messy sometimes. So it seems that Niecy was on a show called Claws, right? Jessica was also on the show. Jessica performed as a singer at Niecy's TV wedding to Niecy's TV husband. Real life wedding, Jessica was not there. TV wedding, Jessica was there. So there's this video circulating of Jessica serenading Niecy in what looks like the bridal suite. And so people are like, see, she was at the wedding. That was the TV wedding, y'all. That wasn't the actual real life wedding to the real life husband. And if you go back and look, you'll see that there's two entirely different dresses. And Niecy, because I mean, this is not a secret, Niecy got some work done on her shape. It's beautiful work. If Niecy were to share the doctor, I'd roll up quick because the work was good. That doctor did excellent work. Niecy looks fucking amazing. But if you look at her shape in her real life marriage and fast forward to maybe like 6-7 years, the shape for the marriage on the show, that's two different bodies. Two different bodies, two different dresses. Jessica ain't have nothing to do with that 2011 wedding, y'all. I'm not saying there wasn't no overlap. I don't know. But I'm just saying Jessica was not at Niecy's real life wedding to the real life husband. She was at the TV wedding, y'all. But Jessica's a nice looking woman. She got energy. Because I saw it and I was like, oh, pretty teeth, nice stature. I went and looked on Jessica's page and I was like, well, oh, she went and got a good looking woman. Not mad at Niecy. I heard some folks say, like, well, women just get so sick of men and they just go be with women. And I was like, that's not really how it works, y'all. You can't like make yourself like be attracted to breast and vagina if you're not. Like that's a kind of innate thing. Either you really like it or you really don't. I remember telling one of my guy friends, I was like, I think I might be bi, like, because I really like the way Amber Rose looks when she walks. And he was like, I mean, but what do you want to do to her? Like when you see her walk? And I was like, nothing. I don't want to do anything. I just like watching her walk. And he was like, yeah, you're straight. Because when I see Amber Rose walk, I'm not thinking about watching her walk. I'm like, oh, okay. But congratulations to Niecy and Jessica. They look wonderfully happy. And so I hope they remain that way forever. For most of my life, I've had good skin. It's genetic. And I totally took it for granted. After I turned 40, my skin started going haywire. Thankfully, I found Curology. Whether you're trying to take control of acne, fine lines, dark spots, or clogged pores, Curology will customize a prescription formula with 3 active ingredients picked for you to tackle your skincare needs. Now, my skincare needs, I've got these dark spots and I've got these horrible breakouts. To get your treatment plan, you start by answering questions online about your skin and sending in a couple selfies to Curology. Next, Curology matches your skin with a licensed dermatology provider who gets to know your skin, and if it's a good fit, you'll get a customized prescription cream to address your unique skin concerns. I answered the questions on the Curology website. They asked me things like, is my skin oily or dry? How much water do I consume? What is my diet? What are my diet restrictions? Things like that. After, Curology sets you up with a personalized treatment plan and ships your custom formula right to your door. So I got my products. I've been using them for about a week now. I haven't had any new breakouts. Get a powerful skincare treatment made for you today. Go to Curology.com/ratchet for a free 30-day trial. Just pay for shipping and handling. That's Curology.com/ratchet to unlock your free 30-day trial. See Curology.com for all the details. What if I told you you could get important fertility insight without going to the doctor or even leaving home? Modern Fertility makes that possible with easy at-home fertility hormone testing. Modern Fertility is the easy and affordable way to test your fertility hormones at home with a simple finger prick. Mail it in with a prepaid label and you'll get personalized results within 10 days. Traditional testing with your doctor can cost over $1,000, but Modern Fertility only costs $159 for the same information. And if you go to modernfertility.com/ratchet, you can get $20 off your test. If you want kids today, or maybe one day, you need information to make the decision that's best for you. I think Modern Fertility is an excellent way to know your body and your options. Right now, Modern Fertility is offering our listeners $20 off the test when you go to modernfertility.com/ratchet. That means your test will cost $139 instead of the hundreds or thousands it could cost at a doctor's office. Get $20 off your fertility test when you go to modernfertility.com/ratchet. modernfertility.com/ratchet. We do have a guest this week, and I'll introduce her in 1 second, but I wanted to talk about Jacob Blake. I made a point to talk about him in detail last week. I wanted to acknowledge another police shooting, but I haven't said much about Jacob Blake since then because the New York Post came out with a story about Jacob Blake's past. I was really wrestling with my stance because I was very outspoken. Like, the police shot him 7 times in the back in front of his kids, and this is terrible, and this is horrible. And then when I learned the new information about the warrant for his arrest, I really had to wrestle with, is this the type of person that I want to publicly support? And so I had to roll it around in my head. And then I started getting called out about it. Like, people were like, well, you talk about everything else, but you're not talking about this. And I was like, can I have a moment to feel my way through this real quick? Jacob Blake had a warrant for sexual assault. Initially, there was a rumor circulating that he had assaulted a 14 or 15-year-old girl. That is not accurate. The woman he was accused of assaulting is the mother of those 3 boys who were in the back seat of that car. The New York Post ran a story. And the New York Post is no fan of Black folks in general. They ran a story. This is why Jacob Blake had a warrant out for his arrest. He's accused of breaking into the home of the mother of the children and sexually assaulting her. She told the cops that he used his finger to sexually assault her. He sniffed it and said, "It smells like you've been with other men." This is what she told the police. She was asleep in her bed with one of her children when Blake broke into her house and came in the room around 6 a.m. The officer who took her statement said she had a very difficult time telling him this and cried as she told how the defendant assaulted her. She told police that she was upset, but she collected herself, and then allegedly she ran out the front door after Blake. She then realized her car was missing. She checked her purse and saw the keys were missing and immediately called 911. She told the cops that she has known Blake for 8 years and that he physically assaults her, quote, around twice a year when he drinks heavily. On Sunday, within 3 minutes of responding to the 911 call, Blake was shot 7 times in the back as he attempted to get into his SUV. So I had to roll around how I thought about that, because if these are the facts, then yes, absolutely, Blake should be arrested by police and he should be jailed, because that is some sick, skeevy, terrifying shit that this woman is alleging that he did to her. Before I give you the final conclusion that I came to on Blake with this new information, I want to be clear that I hate rapists and I hate anyone who commits violent and terrifying acts against women, period. No but, no however, period. And I also, as in addition to, say that I don't think Blake should have been shot 7 times by police in the back or anywhere else. And certainly not in front of his children. Police can't be judge and jury. Your job is to show up and arrest the person. Take him to the precinct. Book him. Hold him. Fine. You can't just shoot a man 7 times in the back over an accusation. I mean, you can because they did, but it's not the right thing to do. Like, arrest him. There's 2 police officers. Why can't y'all just arrest this man? You don't have to shoot him. I will argue all day up and down that the police had no business shooting Blake. However, if the story was the woman that he allegedly assaulted, he just got finished breaking in her house and fingering her, with her child in the bed, no less. By the way, how'd the kids get in the car? Was he trying to take the kids? I just thought about that. The 3 kids were in the car. One of them was in the bed with the mom. How'd those kids end up in the car? If this woman who he just assaulted had a gun and she shot the man 7 times in the back in front of the kids, all I'd have for him is you shouldn't have assaulted her. Shouldn't have broken her damn house. Shouldn't have been trying to finger fuck her. Actions have consequences. That's all I'd have for him. I'd be like, what's her GoFundMe? Does she have a lawyer? I would like to donate something. I'd like to put 5 on it. Make sure that woman has a healthy defense and a good lawyer. I'm just saying. So this week, as I mentioned, we have a treat. She is one of my favorite humans. I've known Michaela Angela Davis so long that I cannot remember how we initially met. I just know that we met in New York, and I can't remember not knowing her for the whole time I've been there. She's been a mentor and also a friend. But in addition to that, she is many. The short version is she is a writer on African American style, race, gender, and hip hop culture. And she is also a fashion expert and image activist. She's also the author of an upcoming book written in conjunction with Mariah Carey called The Meaning of Mariah. It's currently on sale and pre-orders are available. And she talks about it a little bit in our dialogue. She's also the founder of Hair Tales, which she talks about as well when we speak. In general, she creates a space for Black women to talk about their hair. As every Black woman knows, when you talk about hair, you end up talking about so many other things. Black hair is political. So it opens up the dialogue for many conversations. I caught one of them with actually 2 men at Essence Festival a couple years ago. One of them was Jeff Johnson. And he was talking about, I don't know how they got to this conversation from hair, but he was talking about how as a man, he was never taught how to be friends with a woman. He was like, I would meet an attractive woman. I would meet a dope woman. And this is obviously before he was married. But he was like, I would meet like these amazing women. And he was like, my only context for them is that I need to date her or have sex with her. He was like, I didn't know how to be friends. And he was like, and I think about all the business connections, all the friendships, all of the healthy relationships and conversations that I missed out on by not seeing women essentially as people and equals, but as seeing them as something to be possessed or something to be conquered. Again, this came out of a conversation about hair. This is where they landed. So really fascinating conversations. If you ever get a chance to, when the world reopens, to attend a Hair Tales conversation, put that high on your list of things to do. But I reached out to Michaela because there was a vigorous conversation happening online about Tracee Ellis Ross on the cover of Elle magazine. She has on a flowing yellow dress. There's a blue background, and she has her hair kind of like, if you think of an image of a pickaninny, the stereotypical image from like the minstrel shows from Uncle Tom's Cabin, if you think of that image, that's kind of how her hair is styled. It's also a hairstyle that originated in the Congo. This is more than likely one of those occasions where white folks saw something Black folks was doing while they were minding their business, and they decided to turn something positive and normal into something ugly and negative. So when we see the styling of Tracee's hair on the cover of Elle, we see pickaninny, we see minstrel show before we see Africa. So the conversation started out about hair, and it quickly took a negative turn about whether Tracee Ellis Ross, as a biracial woman, is the right person to represent Black women, to talk about Black hair. Many Black women don't have her hair texture. Many Black women do, but I don't. We talked about colorism. We talked about how light-skinned women and biracial women are the face of Black beauty, and like where are all the brown and the dark-skinned girls. We talked about colorism. We talked about texturism. We talked about a lot of things that all came from a conversation of talking about hair. These conversations drive me up a wall because sometimes I just want to talk about the hair, but talking about Black women and hair never stays there. And this is Michaela's lane. This is the lane that she's worked in forever and a day. So I called her up and said, hey, would you come on Ratchet and Respectable and talk to us about Black women and hair? And so she said, sure. Which I was like, thank you. So let's get into it. Let's talk to Michaela about hair and everything else. When is the last time you got rewarded for brushing your teeth? With Quip's new smart electric toothbrush, good habits can earn you great perks like free products, gift cards, and more. The Quip Smart Brush for adults and kids connects to the Quik app with Bluetooth. You can track when and how well you brush and get tips and coaching to improve your habits. Earn points for daily brushing and bonus points for completing challenges. Beyond the brush, Quip has everything you need to build a complete routine. They've got mint or watermelon toothpaste with anti-cavity ingredients for strong, healthy teeth. That sounds amazing. Mint and watermelon are two of my favorite flavors. Quip has floss that expands to clean and comes in a refillable dispenser to reduce waste. And the Refresh Bag to bring your good oral care habits everywhere you go. Join over 5 million mouths who use Quip and save hundreds compared to other Bluetooth brushes when you get a Quip Smart Brush for just $45. Start getting rewards for brushing your teeth today and go to getquip.com/respectable right now to get your first refill free. That's your first refill free at getquip.com/respectable, spelled GETQUIP.com/respectable. Quip, better oral health made simple and rewarding. Lately, I've had some busy days. I mean the kind where I look up from my computer, realize it's the end of the day, and I've totally skipped lunch. For days when my meetings are back to back, or if I just need a quick break, I've been loving Daily Harvest. Daily Harvest delivers delicious food built on organic fruits and vegetables right to your door. It takes just a few minutes to prepare, and I never have to question if the food I'm eating is good for me. With Daily Harvest, there's an option for any time of day. Smoothies for breakfast, crisp flatbreads for lunch or dinner, and comfort food for when the weather starts to cool down, like their perfectly roasted harvest bowls. My favorite bowl is the sweet potato and wild rice hash. Daily Harvest makes it easy to eat clean, undeniably delicious food no matter what your day brings. Keep it simple with Daily Harvest. Go to dailyharvest.com and enter promo code RESPECTABLE to get $25 off your first box. That's promo code RESPECTABLE for $25 off your first box at dailyharvest.com. dailyharvest.com.
Hey, Mama.
Hey, Michaela. How are you?
You know, all things considered, and there are so many things to consider. I feel I'm grateful today.
Good.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm back in DC. I just need a little more space. California, and it's like half open, half not. Things opening and closing on a whim. Like I couldn't do it anymore. So I came back because I needed space and peace. And my mama, so, you know.
And your mama.
Yeah.
What was traveling like? Were you nervous? I'm just about to start kind of contemplating doing a little trip to LA.
Wait, where are you now? I thought you were in LA.
No, I'm in transition. So I came to Sedona,
yes,
where my mother lives, right, to finish the book and just kind of heal. And the plan was, once I finished the book, that I was going to go to LA and settle. And then COVID. So it doesn't make sense for me to be in LA. So I'm still here. I feel like I'm in one of those horror/comedy movies where oh, this is a beautiful place on vacation, but I can't leave.
Yeah.
Listen, there are people suffering in this moment and living, and I'm in this beautiful little vacation condo. I can't, it feels weird to complain, but it's still just we don't have any reference for what this is.
Yeah, and no end in sight.
I know. It's hard, man.
It is.
And so much loss, so much grief, and then not being able to do what we do when we're in grief, whether it's go to church or, dance together or be together. We can't even do that. Yeah. And for Black folks, that's how we survived all this shit.
Yeah, you've taken our ritual.
All the rituals, there was no cookouts, no Essence Festival, none of that, the stuff that fills you up, none of it happened.
I was going to answer your question about travel. I've had to travel a couple times for work. When it was work stuff, they flew me out first class, so I had a little more space on the plane. And then when I came yesterday, Delta is still the only airline that blocks off the seat next to you. And I kept my mask on the whole time, of course. So.
Oh, gee whiz. Oh, you know what? Congratulations on the show.
Thank you.
And it's proof of life, right? Like proof of life when things happen and get done. And I think now more than ever, we need to twirl when things happen.
Once things happen again, every invite, the opening of an envelope, I'm there.
Listen, just see each other and celebrate life.
Yeah.
Just, life.
Yeah. I miss life. Yes.
I miss life.
Like, I miss life.
I miss life.
I miss life.
According to your podcast, you're still waiting for a date, right?
Yes, I'm still waiting for a date for the
for the air date.
For the air date, yes. I really want February because I would love for this to be like a Valentine's Day situation.
Oh, sure.
But we'll see. Whatever they give me, I'm gonna be happy with and celebrate some way, somehow.
Listen, are you still in edit or?
We're still in edit. We just wrapped shooting at the end of July.
I'm working on this project. So we're, having to revise budgets because now it's like a COVID unit.
They had a whole trailer for just the COVID testing. So even when I got there, before I could go on set, I had to go get tested, and they shoved that thing like all the way up my nose. I was only on set 2 days. But if you're a steady person who's there every day, you get that test every other day.
Oh, wow.
And even still, everyone except the main cast has to walk around with their masks on. It's like creating a bubble.
It really is. It's I realized the other day I was getting some dental surgery. I realized, I don't know what my doctor looks like. I met him in a mask. He never took off his mask. It was weird. I was talking to my mother. She's like, he's cute, right? And I'm like, I don't know.
We're going to be damaged from this, you think?
I think part is going to be damaged and part is going to be renewed. It's so interesting talking about damage. I was listening to your latest podcast, and I really related to you were going I can't watch this Jacob Blake footage. Something to the equivalent, it's taking a bit of your soul every time. And I had a similar experience where, and it actually is going to dovetail into talking about hair, but when I was on contract at CNN, I came in maybe, around the Obama 2008. That's when they were looking for all the blacks, right? So I was on pretty regularly, but once Trayvon Martin was murdered, and they had this town hall, and I did this thing with Anderson Cooper, and I became one of the 2 or 3 go-to people when there was black catastrophe and death. It was every couple of weeks, whether it was Eric Gardner, Mike Brown, Sandra Bland, all the names, right? And so by the time we got to Charleston, that terrorist attack, something happened to me. It was at the same time as Rachel Dolezal. And I was having this crazy Tina Fey moment with Rachel Dolezal, because here she was the split screen of me and her was a whole thing, and whatever. And she angered me in a very ancient place, right? I remember calling my mother the night before because we were supposed to be on together. It was the whole thing, and I was prepping. I'm like, I don't want to be so fucking angry at her. And I was saying, I hate how she kept saying, I own my culture, I own my blackness. And my mother said that she can't own our ancestors. And she doesn't have that. My mother told me the story about how the Klan came to her grandparents' house, and that's why they fled South Carolina, and that they were terrorized. So that story was very, fresh in my memory. I remember on the car ride going to the Bureau, I looked up just the basic description of terrorists and terrorism. And Dylan Roof was textbook. He fit all the criteria. In addition to him being a terrorist, Reverend Pinckney was assassinated. It was a very simple description of, an elected official who was sought out and killed because of his views. That's kind of what an assassination is. And so I wanted to use the right language when talking about Dylann Roof as a terrorist, as an act of terrorism, and that Reverend Pinckney was assassinated. Like, I'm so shook that I didn't even understand how shook I was, because it happened at night, and I was supposed to be on the air like 7 o'clock in the morning. So I didn't even know how shook I was about the horror of what had happened, of him being there and praying with them, and the historic nature of that church and all of it, right? And so I'm sitting on this panel with Chris Cuomo, whatever, and they're talking about this thing, and they're calling it a tragedy, and then there's a police officer who was at the scene, and he said there's this moment when you hear phones ringing and bodies vibrating because of people's family. And I blacked out. Like, it was a split second, but I left the set. Like, I don't know what happened. I blacked out. I came right back. I don't think anybody knew that I did. But the horror was so real, Demetria, and I called Dylann was a terrorist, and it started this whole thing at CNN. Like, they held me at the bureau, whatever, this whole thing. And it was when I was working at BET too. And so I was walking back and forth from CNN to BET. And when I got to the first time I went to BET, and I just saw some black people, I collapsed and just started crying. And I was crying in between each take. And I was realizing, like, everyone else is just talking about this terrible news, and I'm breaking down. It wasn't just like all the bodies stacked on top of each other over the, course of the couple of years that was. It was just like when, the ancestral trauma and pain was also there. It was Southern, it was in a church, it was this whole thing. I called Quan that night, and I said, Quan, we have to start. I have to do something that's about Black life and Black girl joy, or I don't know how I'm going to survive. Like, I really felt like something cracked in me. And I'm like, no one's studying what this is doing to our psyche. This is like Emmett Till on a constant loop. Like, we're absorbing these images over and over and over again, not just to witness them, but to, like, look at them so we can analyze them and talk about it and talk about it and talk about it and look at them again, and seeing them on every screen, on our TV, on our phones. What is this doing? Like, nobody knows. Like, I don't know the damage that it has done to our psyche. I don't know. And the only thing I need to do, aside from, going into my spiritual practice for some help, but, like, putting out images about life. And so that's when I really started drilling down and doing hair tails, because hair tails as a concept have been sitting on my desktop for maybe a couple of years. I've always been obsessed about Black hair because of just how it just connects Black girlhood and womanhood in a very particular way. But I loved it like most other people. But there was something about, after I had this horrific experience and really understanding and having already placed sort of my centering in terms of my professional centering around Black women, the hair, using hair as a organizing principle to talk about Black women's life and identity got more real to me. And I started looking at it really kind of like a clinician, like the way that Eve Ensler used the vagina to talk about sexual violence with women as a tool. In that same methodology, I continue to use hair to talk about Black women's identity and culture. And so these conversations that were kind of casual before, or parts of conversation. We always talked about hair in larger conversations, but then centering it on hair as an organizing principle, as a metaphor for Black women's identity, got very sharp because of the trauma that because of it was just so much death.
I'm glad that you brought up hair, and I will be very, very honest with you. Like, of all the conversations that I have about all different subjects that involve Black women especially, hair is probably my least favorite. There is a reason that I've called you in today to talk about hair, because I find, and you're laughing that knowing laugh because you know where I'm going with this, Black women's hair is about everything except hair. I've never been involved in any conversation about Black women's hair that has not gone somewhat haywire. It becomes texturism, it becomes colorism, it becomes professionalism, it becomes class conversations. It's just everything tied up in hair.
That's exactly why I talk about it, because it's an on-ramp to talk about us. It's not about hair. Hair is the metaphor. Hair is the philosophical foundation. And why hair? Because there are very few cultural things, Demetria, that I feel that are ours, meaning Black women. In the way that, and I have this internal kind of positioning that hair is our hip hop, where certainly Black women have participated in hip hop and helped build it and all of that. The currency, the agency, the power in the culture in hip hop is very male and it's globally celebrated and also globally criticized. But it's like this whole big cultural space that Black and brown men generally hold. Hair is the closest to that I can find that is particular around Black women, meaning it's our creativity, it's our economy, it's our history, it's our hysteria, it's our, space, like the salon or the stoop or whatever. These are very particular Black women's spaces, and we don't have that much space in the world. So it's like, what is this thing that we have that connects us, that is a connective tissue to talk about us? And that does break class. And, when Oprah's talking about her hair, and so is Shaniqua. I go to Dakar, they're doing hair in a ritualistic way, and you go to Detroit, they are too. So it's not about, the hair is just holding us together to talk about us. So yes, all of it comes out. It's all in our hair.
The latest way it's come out, and latest is in like last week, Tracee Ellis Ross is on the cover of the September 2020 Elle magazine. The tagline is "The State of Black Hair." And she is in conversation with Kerry Washington. And I thought they had a very thoughtful conversation about Black women and hair. A lot of people were very angry about the cover. They didn't like Tracee's hair, kind of like braided up into, what's the girl's name from Uncle Tom's Cabin? Topsy?
Oh,
is it Topsy?
Yes.
Okay, boom.
Yes.
I haven't read that book in years.
I think everybody, like that's the image that it evokes.
Yes.
Certainly.
And like I saw it, I kind of got the imagery, and I was like, well, okay, like, not my favorite thing, but it's Tracee and it's fine. And what are Tracee and Kerry going to talk about? Other people saw it and was just pissed and was like, why is this horrible hair on the cover of Elle magazine? What has Elle magazine done? What did you think when you saw the cover? I
saw the inside images first, as a matter of fact, because Instagram, it's so different. Our lives now, it's not like a newsstand. It's Instagram that breaks news. So I saw the inside images first, and I was like, "Oh, this hair is amazing!" Because they had, especially there was one where she was turned to the back, and it had great big braids and a couple of cornrows, and it had lots of energy and texture in one hairstyle. Loved it. Love the fashion, love the lighting, and full disclosure, I was a former fashion and beauty editor and also very, very close to Tracee. Like, we're friends, bordering on family for like 25 years. She introduced me to her mom, the whole thing. So
I remember that story. That was hilarious because you didn't know. You got Tracee Ellis Ross, but never in a million years did you think like your mother, the Diana.
That's a whole other tangent about... I didn't really know who Tracee was. I was a guest editor at Mirabella magazine, which is gone, but Mirabella was this fabulous magazine. And Tracee was working in the fashion closet. And I just thought she was this really cool girl with this really cool style. And it was very, very white world, the fashion industry, particularly. So I didn't even know who she was. I just knew that there was a cool girl in the fashion closet. She was black, and we were going to be good. And she told me that, my mom is looking for someone like you, because I was doing this shoot and I had all these outrageous clothes because it was with Seal and Bjork. It was very extra, lots of couture. And so she, and I thought, she's a socialite, because that's a lot of fashion girls, because they don't pay in fashion. So fashion tended to have a lot of, women from money and young women who were socialites, whatever. So I'm like, she's a socialite. I didn't know who her mother was. And I arrived at her mother's house. The elevator doors open, and Diana Ross is in the middle of the floor. And I died. I died because I would say mahogany probably changed my life. And a lot of it had to do with the hair. The hair was always an entry point for me, Demetria, because it was a flashpoint in my life. I was a little, super light-skinned black girl with blonde hair. And my hair was big and thick. And I like the word kinky. I use the word kinky and nappy all the time. I always have. It doesn't bother me. And perhaps, pushing through those two lenses that I said, super light skin and blonde, maybe that's why it don't bother me, or that's not, whatever. But I had this blonde, thick, dense hair. And so people talked about it as a thing in just my orientation in the world. So when I look at a lot of things, particularly black things like Soul Train, like mahogany, the hair and the fashion are my lens in which I enter a space, right? And so Miss Ross meant so much because I knew I loved fashion, but I didn't see how we fit in there. And mahogany showed me how we fit. We make ourselves fit, right? So anyway, I fell on the floor, had a moment, and then started working with her for a couple of years on and off. So that's how Tracee and I met. Again, Tracee was working in a fashion closet. So there is a real authenticity and legitimacy and connectedness to fashion and beauty and art that she authentically has. It's not just that she's a celebrity that's on red carpets. She's connected into the industry in a very particular way, right? And so all of that, I think, is important context for how we move forward in talking about this. I have seen so many different images of Tracee and Tracee's hair, as we all have, from Girlfriends to all the fashion magazines, to the cover of Essence, to her beauty line. Like, we have seen a lot of Tracee Ellis Ross hair, so and expressions in it, and her journey through it. We've been with her through her hair for at least a decade. So there's that. So we have so it's interesting. So by the time we got to the Ellle cover, I didn't know that it was triggering until I got that text from you. The honest thing is, I didn't really pay that much to the cover because I was really into the inside images. So then when you send me that text, I'm like, let me look at this again and see. I wasn't triggered, but I saw the reference and I thought, or is it just, because one of the ways I describe afros is that it's like, it defies gravity, right? Like, black hair is the only hair that goes up and out. And I'm like, so when I first saw it, I didn't rest. I didn't pay a lot of attention to it. And I also didn't even pay attention to that headline, which changes the context a little bit, right? So so I thought, okay, it's like, gravity defying, and then I looked at it, it's like, this is gonna bring up some, pickaninny pain. And it did. Part of that picking up pain is a really deep, a kind of a conversation that I feel that I know that I've had lots of times. Like you said, when we talk about hair, all kinds of things come up. And particularly when you have an image or an idea that gets at a very particular pain, it is worth talking about, and we must talk about it. And then there's also this idea of art and culture and imagery and provocateur possibilities, particularly in the fashion space, and how much room do we give Black people and Black editors to do that. For instance, if you look at Franca, who was the editor-in-chief of, Italian Vogue, who led the fashion world in provocative images for 25 years, like, what were all the images that they got to play with and have big cultural conversations around war, around domestic violence, around, plastic surgery. Every other month, there was some big conversation about Italian Vogue putting images that were, dangerous and violent, but they caused people to talk about social and cultural issues. Do we give Black fashion moments that space too? There's a lot of like areas in which this image can give us room to have a conversation. Here's what I'm not sure about, because as you noted, there was a Black beauty editor, right? There were a lot of Black women participating in creating that image. If it were not, this would be a whole other thing. And probably Tracee would not have done it. I don't even know whether a white editor, which we almost always have, it's almost always a white gaze or a white gatekeeper when Black women are on the cover of these kinds of magazines. So the fact that this is a Black Girl Squad deciding to put that image and create that image also gives us a very different context. But it's still Ellle, which ain't ours. So there's layers. And this is why I love talking about Black women and identity and issues and culture through the lens of hair, because there's just so many layers. And we know that Tracee loves her hair and loves her Blackness. I don't feel like there's any ambiguity around that. She ain't just discovered herself. Because that would be a whole other, set of things for us to talk about. Because a lot of people are just getting Black. There's a whole lot of very new sister soldiers out there. But when it comes to hair and Tracee Ellis Ross, she's not. How many images has she created? Thousands upon thousands. So all those issues are on the table. However, no. In addition, in reading those comments on your Facebook page, what I always feel like my job to do is try to listen to what is the yearning underneath that comment. Like, what is, and it was very articulate what the pain is. Like, I don't want to see this. I don't want to feel this. I don't think this person has the authority to pick at that pain. And that's very real and valid too. And, Tracee and I talk a lot about also completely understanding our proximity to whiteness puts us in spaces and creates shelter in ways that we know that other people don't have. So there's no delusion around that. But this is the skin and the space you were given. And so how much, and the hair that you were given. So how much help can you be using what you were given? And they're complicated conversations. And sometimes we just got to sit in the pain and hear it and understand it. But does that stop you from creating images?
One of the common threads on the post, I would say, was women who were saying that the conversation about Black hair has been dominated by light-skinned women, biracial women, And it's not something I always think about because, again, like, I mean, I'm not but so brown, but I'm not but so light either. Like, I'm kind of like in that middle space. So I can kind of like walk around with blinders on about some things, but it's something I've heard over and over. I think it's a valid concern. There's been much progress with women who are, you know, of deeper hues on the cover of magazines, and women who have kinky or coil nappy. I use it in the same way you do with affirmation and love, but there needs to be more in the space. So if you are a woman like Tracee or other women who are, you know, light-skinned and have the proximity to whiteness that you point out, what do you do? Do you turn down roles? Do you turn down opportunities to pass them to someone else? Like, what's the answer here to getting more representation of a little bit of everybody?
Such a real question. I was going to say it's loaded, but it's just very real. It's almost reminiscent to even talking about activism. You know, there was a moment, you know, in the late 60s and early 70s going, you know, why is it Angela Davis and Kathleen Cleaver and, you know, Nikki Giovanni, like all these light-skinned women, or Malcolm, like, so, and part of it, and I, you know, this is obviously something that I also unpack all the time. Is it because your proximity to whiteness gives you this feeling of safety and shelter? So you say some shit that, you know, someone else who is darker or you know, black from a distance is in a much more precarious position to say. So do you try to bring voice because they let you in the room because they're not scared of you because you're not that big, angry black girl? Because that's, to me, how I felt. I felt like I was a smuggler of culture into CNN because I knew that I could sit there with my afro because it was blonde and because I was light-skinned. I knew that, you know, and here's the thing, and this is real, Demetria, if I said no, I don't want to be in this unit, in Anderson Cooper's unit, it should be given to another sister who is darker and more black identified. That doesn't happen. I can't switch. I couldn't have put Joanne Reed in my space or the equivalent of her. I don't have that power, right? It is the, you know, the head of talent, whomever. And it's almost like, you know, going back to original pain on the playground, meaning that cute boy likes you because you're light-skinned and you have long hair. You turn him down, that doesn't mean he's going to turn to your best friend who's dark-skinned. We don't have that much power to shift the space for someone else. And this is just me personally. I try to do as much as I can with the spaces that I'm allowed in, and when I'm allowed, how many people can I bring with me once I get in. Turning down roles, turning down women, and particularly, you're still a woman of color, you're still black. Just because you know, if you're light-skinned, it makes you perhaps closer, but you still are not white. So that doesn't give you white power. Like, I'm going to step off for this role because I'm going to bring in someone else. It doesn't work like that. You're still a woman and you're still black. So if you're in there, how much can you do in that space to make room for other people? And so the notion of conversation or leading conversations about black hair and being, you know, as light, I'm even lighter than Tracee. My hair isn't lighter, meaning in terms of texture. I have several textures going on in my hair at the same time.
Same.
But most of us do, right? What you hope for, and I believe this to be true, Tracee, now I'm not just saying this because my friend, she's my friend, but I feel like the conversations that I'm coming from around black hair, I've been doing for years, and authentically have done work and scholarship and field study, and, you know, like I feel like it's rooted in work. And I believe that with Tracee, because I remember her talking about her hairline about 10 years ago. Like, even not just talking about it, but actually starting work around it. Here's what I hope to be able to do is create more spaces for women who want to talk about it that are more diverse and more representative to the table that I'm trying to build. Because here's where women of diversity do lead as creators and culturalists, if you go on Instagram and you see who's actually doing the hair and making the hair into these works of art and beautiful, it's Black women, like full spectrum. So the creators of the culture are representative. It's like, how do we make more of them elevated into a space of having authority, right? Because they're actually making the work. They're creating the trends. Like, how does all that energy and power and creativity that we see on Instagram translate into being centered as a voice to talk about this? Because I feel the power as a practitioner is really, really, really significant, because you are literally in Black women's heads. The actual workers in Black hair need to be more centered. How that happens, I'm working through that right now. I'm trying to work through that. Yeah.
When I was listening to you, and also when I was reading the threads on many of my different social media platforms, even though some, what's the word I want to use, vitriol really was directed toward Tracee, I think what the real problem is the lack of spaces. We're still existing in a slightly better version if there's only room for one. So if it's like, if a Tracee gets it, then there's no room for a Lupita, and there's no room for a Viola, or there's no room for a Regina King or a Taraji. Because it was like, well, why do Tracee and not Taraji? And it's like, because we don't have enough spaces right now. That's really what it boils down to. So I definitely feel people, if they had more spaces. I mean, as much as I love Essence, if there could be another version of Essence, like we can have more than one Black girls magazine at a time.
There should have been. I'm old enough to know, that after Essence, there was Suede, and Honey, which is Honey was the love of my life.
Honey's when I changed my major from English to journalism. Seeing the Lauryn Hill cover on, I got it on Howard's Yard. Yeah.
Oh, that just made me tear up. And to this day, Kara's my girl. We still talk about this, like creating more space and the pain that we have felt in watching these spaces disintegrate. And disintegrate, and not because the Black women weren't there supporting them. Because Honey was, let me get this term right, it was the fastest growing women's magazine in America. I didn't say Black. I said women's magazine.
Yeah.
Towing the line for a bunch of other properties that weren't centered on Black women. We were literally paying for the failing business, right? It wasn't because the market wasn't there. It's because we weren't treated right. The business wasn't there. The Black women as a market are strong. They're so deserving. They will come. They are loyal. They are the best market. And it boggles. Like, we have very long conversations about why can't they get us right? Why can't they do us right? There's no reason in 2020 we should be stressing because we have less. There is no Right On. There is no Honey. There is no Suede. We have less. Thank God for Instagram. Like, thank God for individuals putting out images, and we can curate. We can look at like vintage Black glamour. Like, there's all these places I go to see us, but there still is that thing. And I'm trying to work through this because I think this is something I need to let go. There still is that thing, particularly when you loved magazines and fashion, which I did and do. I just feel like we never got to have the Italian Vogue moment. There was Tracee. Like, I lived for Tracee, right?
Yeah.
And that Black Girls Rule issue was an event. Like, they would have this fabulous party. It was in New York, and all the top Black models at the fan, and everybody was there. It was like, it was a moment, and then it was over. There's a part of me that stays frustrated, and I hope it animates me, it keeps me energized, that because Ellle is going to have someone like Tracee for a couple of reasons. And one of them is Elle's a fashion magazine first, right? And Tracee's participation in the fashion world, going full circle to our conversation, is very long and rich and real. Plus, she has a hairline. So those things, plus she's Tracee Ellis Ross. You know, she was a model. There's all these things. So all those things make her the reason why you put her on a cover, right? Then say a Taraji, or, you know, Gabrielle has a new hairline too.
Forgot about that. Yeah.
And so it's beautiful and glowy, and, you know, Gabrielle has her own fashion line too with New York. It still is the establishment of fashion, and fashion as it's been organized and understood, that is still forcing itself to grapple with Black beauty. They never planned for us. They don't. Sometimes I think it's a pain in their ass that they have to deal with us. What was it about this month? Because Glamour having a whole Black hair moment too. I'm like, what happened?
Oh, I've counted 16.
Did Breonna Taylor just make y'all?
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what happened? What, you counted 16 what?
16 covers with Black people on them for the September issues alone.
See, do we have to die?
Do we have to burn shit down? Because I also think that has to do with it. Because they were fine with us dying. We started burning shit down. They were like, let's address these people, because now they're pissed.
Because Fannie Lou Hamer told y'all.
Yeah. Ben told us.
We're going to tear yours down. She told y'all, we will tear it down.
Yeah, that's happening. Yeah.
So, okay, so now we have a September moment. You know, and here's where we come in. It's to make sure, because like I said, I feel like I need to go to therapy to stop feeling jealous or envious or wanting to be, you know, Anna or Franca or any of those girls, right? Because that moment's over. It's over for them. It's over for me. It's over, right? Because that was just such a desire. One day we get to. Because I remember when that Black issue of Italian Vogue came out.
Yes.
And everybody was clamoring for it.
Yes, I still have it.
For thousands. Right. But listen to what I just said. The Black issue. That we still are dying for.
Yes.
I just wanted to not need to go to those pillars and ask for permission and come there with my little beggar's cup and go, can we have a moment, please, every 10 years?
Yeah.
You know, fuck that. And that's what it feels like. It's oh, they picked one of us, but you still feel left out, just like on the playground. They picked a cute girl. Cute through a lens that we still didn't even build. We're sitting there going, oh, they picked that girl again. It's everything. It's Ellle. It's music videos. It's movies. It's the playground. You know, it's the girl that they pick. And it's we need to be the they. More Black women need to be in the space of being who's picking who. Black women are generous. We think about each other. And that's what that cover and all those comments on your socials represent. We're still thinking about who's not in the room. We think about that in a very innate way. And so if more of us are in more places, more of us will be in more places.
That is so simple and so profound.
And that's why when you create spaces and you tell stories, that's why, you're getting this television thing is no little deal. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. We are our stories. We are our images. We have a great opportunity in this moment, I think, Demetria, because it's Black music has had 100 years, right, of at least of creating a framework of culture and excellence and beauty and brilliance and genius that the whole world recognizes. Black literature, also, we have giants, from Toni Morrison to James Baldwin. We have giants, all these new, amazing Black novelists and thinkers. And, we have this I mean, you look at the New York Times bestseller list, and 13 out of 15 are Black authors. So in terms of Black music and Black narrative, we have a real sort of stronghold in knowing that we have a place, and knowing that we have influenced culture, knowing that we are respected, and there's kind of a framework, a cultural framework. But when it comes to beauty and moving images and cinema and aesthetics, there's lots of opportunity to create more, and our roots aren't as deep as they are in music and literature, as they are in image. We have a real opportunity to create a legacy. What is the Black woman's aesthetic? What is that? What do we look like? What do we dream about? What do our images look like? We're developing that as we speak. And so if you're a Black woman creator that's creating not just narrative, but narrative that has images that go with it, it's a big deal. It's a frontier. And like music, there was I remember back at Honey, there was a time we were doing a cover, and I was like, oh, I don't want someone with like a blonde tint or blonde hair at this moment. And we were hard pressed. It was just at that time when everybody was doing like having a blonde moment. Mary, Beyonce, everybody. And it was just like, you know, it was just funny. It's like, oh, look at this. Look what's happening here. It's like a lot of industries, whether it's Hollywood or music, there's generally a type of Blackness that gets in the door first. And I think this moment, this generation, we get to swing it open wider. I hope that's what we do. Like Lena, and people are swinging the door open and bringing bunches of people with us. With them. You know, Lena, Ava, Regina, you know, I'm just hoping once we get in there, we just keep bringing more of us in.
You know how you run for the subway in New York and you're late and somebody's like, hold the door. I feel like that's where we're trying to be in Black Hollywood. Like, if you get in, just hold the door. Let as many people... Exactly. Let everybody run down the steps and get in. Hold the door.
That's really what it feels like. But we do that. We don't watch it close and just pull up. At least we try. At least we throw our bag in there. Sometimes we do throw our body on the line. Sometimes we do. And we shouldn't have to. Again, back to your other podcast, talking about Megan. That whole Megan moment had me I was in my feelings for real about it.
Yeah.
What are we even doing out here? We literally will give our life, and y'all can't give us a moment. What? Where is everybody? Where is everybody around Megan? Where are all these dudes?
Nowhere to be found.
Where are they? You look at the cover of Abby, the makers of the Black Lives Matter movement. 3 Black women. Mm-hmm. You see Tamika Mallory,
she been arrested so many times.
We got one of your favorite rappers shot. Ain't nobody on the front line. Nobody saying anything. All that power, all that money, all that influence.
Nope.
That's why, and this is no shade on men, Black men in hip hop. But that's why I trust Black women. If that was
any other male rapper, it would have been.
Any other male rapper, there would be. It would have been a free Meek moment.
I don't remember a pray for Meg, a save Meg, a help Meg, or even a fuck Tory Lanez. Even if you're not going to run to Meg, no animosity towards him either. It's just, she wanted to have a hot girl summer. So, really?
I know.
Really?
I didn't even really know what to say. There's different feelings that you have once you're not, I don't want to say not part of the culture, but it's kind of like an auntie moment. So you have this other kind of feeling when you are looking at our trajectory in a very particular way. And things like that make you go it makes you feel like we've slipped back. or that we've made no progress. You know, when you've been challenging, and particularly in hip-hop, like that's really where my activism started, is really talking about how women were treated in hip-hop. Like, it's like where your family just fucks with you over and over. Like, they just let you hang as Black women. And then you do all this stuff, and you are the best. You have this huge record. A huge. You know, hip-hop haven't had a record like that in a long time. Even then, you can't protect, like, you can't even say anything. There's a lot of pain and unhealed trauma. And we're gonna probably have to heal ourselves, Demetria. And that's kind of what these kind of conversations can do. And particularly just saying to all those women and all those comments that we hear you and we see you. We hear you. This is the step we know we can take now. We can say these voices are out here, this is what they're feeling, and using the megaphone that we have to illuminate that. There's more steps, right, to how to actually bring those voices in, like their actual voices, is the work that we have ahead.
It's so complicated.
It is.
But so necessary. Like, this is worthy work to be figured out.
It is. It is. We are complicated. We are worthy.
Yes.
Of all the time and thought and scholarship and, and courage and risk-taking. Because that was, back to this idea of, like, who gets to put out what images, right? So one of the things around, the whole Italian Vogue moment is that's what the Franca was. She's a risk taker. She's a provocateur. She puts out images that make people talk. Is it art? Is it, I'm saying this, I'm being sarcastic because I'm still, it's still something I felt like as Black editors and Black thought leaders and Black, cultural leaders never got a chance to do that. In this moment, Elle is like an Italian Vogue moment where they have that plastic surgery issue or more the domestic violence issue, which was so controversial. Like, how dare you use fashion to talk about domestic violence? I remember vividly this model with red hair on the steps, and she looked like she'd been pushed down the steps. She had this beautiful red, like, suit, and her hair was red, and it was in a pool of blood. And it's just like, ooh. This editor was like, fashion sits in between culture and art and politics and art. So why can't I use my pages to talk about it? And that's valid. I don't even know whether this is behind it. Maybe I'm putting all my editor drama on it. Was that image created to do just that? Can we talk about this? Just because it's painful don't mean it doesn't need to come back up. Have we ever had justice for Tracee? Can we talk about her? I don't know if that was the motivation, but it's an interesting conversation.
It has sparked much conversation. If that was the intent, then it did that. Here we are.
Here we are. And I'm glad we are, because I want to talk about us all in all our complications. And like I said, hair is a way in. It's an on-ramp. There's a flashpoint. It locates us to Africa. It connects us to each other. It reminds us of pain. It reminds us of glory. It's all the things. Mm-hmm.
It's still one of my, a difficult conversation for me every time, but I keep having it because clearly there are some issues. Clearly. Thank you so much, Michaela. I really appreciate your insight, especially, but also your time.
Yeah, of course. And thank you for giving us some space to talk about it. Lord knows there's more and more and more. But this is how we heal. This is how we get better, and at least know each other more. There's a lot of love, and there's also a lot of pain that connects sisters, and we need to be connected more and acknowledge each other's pain and also sometimes what we just triggering each other. Just our physicality triggers stuff, and we can't what's the thing when you diffuse it? We can't go in and undo those wires that history wired up in us. Why we should not like this person, or why we should distrust this person because of our hair or skin, and we can't undo those wires until we talk about it, because we've been wired up to compare and to distrust each other. If you and I snipped one wire tonight or today, whatever, it's worth it.
Indeed.
All right, Mama.
When does your book come out? Your Mariah Carey book. I've been waiting on this thing.
September 29th.
Of this year? This. Oh my God, I'm so excited.
It's coming. It's coming. And
it's been coming. It's been coming. I've known about the writing of it. So I'm waiting. I didn't know it was this. Okay, I'm excited.
It's coming. We're both very, very proud of it. Talk about complicated. Oh, my goodness. Have us back. Let me see if I can get, because there's so many very, 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 very relevant issues in this book. It's all about identity, race, ambition, gender, survival, and faith.
Mariah Carey comes with all of those things. That's why I've always loved her. That and she can sing her face off. You're
going to love her so much more when you understand where she came from and where those lyrics come from. Because there's a lot of music in there, because we're telling you the stories behind the music.
I love it.
And she's been telling everybody there's a lot of, for a while. If you know what her lambs know, and that's her fans. I ain't never met no fans like that in my life. They're incredible. There's just a whole other level of fandom. But I can't wait for you to read it. I'd love to get your insight on it and have a conversation with you about it, because it's got all the things in there.
Okay. Are pre-orders available now?
Yep.
Okay. I'll let people know.
All right, darling.
All right. Thank you again.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Okay. You too. Bye-bye. I love Michaela. I love her. That conversation about hair went in 50 million other directions, which I knew that it would. I didn't know where it was going, because hair, especially black hair, goes a little bit of everywhere. So, yeah, we went where we went. I would also like to note, I totally forgot that Gabrielle had her own hair care line. A genius editor, and we were talking about Kierna, who founded Honey. And also, remember 9 years ago or so, everyone had started reading Ebony magazine all of a sudden? It's because Kierna was over the magazine. Genius editor, got a vision like nobody's business. But Kierna would have had Taraji and Gabrielle and Tracee at least in conversation about black hair. 3 famous black women, actresses with their own hair care lines, and all with different textured hair, in conversation about hair would have been an amazing conversation. So for the people who are still working in magazines, because my days in magazines exist no more, something for you to think about. I just gave y'all a free idea. Run with that, please. Essence, are you listening? Run with that. Thanks. And also, like Michaela said, she calls Kierna and they talk about they should do something. I call or text Kierna every 6 months and be like, hey, so, what are you doing? What are you working on? Are you thinking about going back to another magazine? Because I would come out of hiatus to work for you. Just FYI. If you decide to start something new, you decide you want to do a reiteration of Honey, but call it something else, just FYI, I would come work for you. Kierna, if you're listening, I would come work for you. I would find time between signing and shipping books and working on Ratchet and Respectable logos and Don't Waste Your Pretty logos and executive producing films. I would find time for you, Kierna. Hope you're listening. Also, we talked about Michaela's book, The Meaning of Mariah, that comes out, did she say September 29th? But that book comes out soon, so you can pre-order. I'm positive that book is going to hit the New York Times bestsellers list. So pre-order in advance so you can get your book on the day that it comes out and start reading before people give you all the spoilers or the book is sold out. Last but certainly not least, y'all got mad at me last week. I mentioned I was selling signed copies of Don't Waste Your Pretty on my website. And by the time the podcast had come out, they were sold out. I sold a whole lot of books, y'all. A whole lot of books. There are more copies available now. They're not getting shipped till the end of the month. I got to get through these first series of shipments. I'm sending them out in the order that the orders came in. If you would like to have a signed copy of Don't Waste Your Pretty, they are available on my website, demetrialucas.com. There are books available. I don't know how long they will be available. I will try to keep the numbers in stock. Just please be mindful, they ain't going out till the end of the month. So demetrialucas.com, that's how you get a book. So now I think that's everything. We've covered everything. Thank you, as always, for listening. If you need some Ratchet and Respectable in your life before next week's episode, please follow me on social media at Demetria L. Lucas on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. If you enjoyed this episode, you liked what you heard, please subscribe to Ratchet and Respectable on whatever platform you're listening to this podcast. You will be the first to know when there's new episodes, when there's bonus episodes, when there's anything going on with Ratchet and Respectable. We will talk again next week. Okay, bye.